But a few things I want to just update you on from the Chamber's perspective and the work of Reopen Evansville. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Steve Schaefer, for all your great work there. I'm going to give you the floor in 1 second, Mayor, so stay tuned. On the Chamber's website, we have maintained open hours for restaurants through this whole process. And it's still getting a lot of hits. So if your hours are not accurate, we'd love to have you get in touch with us and make sure we freshen up so that any of that information that's useful to you for communicating on behalf of your business, we keep as current as possible. The other thing I will share is that we, as the convener of the business community in many ways, are very intent in doing all we can to keep this economy opening safely and moving through these tricky times that we're in, especially in this past month. We're going to rise together or we're going to sink together, my friends. So how we use this time and the information out there and coach and guide our clients and customers is going to be very important. So I, for one, am very appreciative of you taking time to be on this call today to make sure that we're doing all we can to give you good information and to hear from you, because you're the ones that are on the streets and are setting the curve for what we need to know to enable so many other restaurants and entertainment venues in our space to do well. So Mayor, you're not on the agenda, but you're on the call. So will you take just a moment?
Sure.
You're always on our agenda.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to take a minute to thank everyone for all the good work they're doing to keep your customers, or your patrons and your employees safe. I get the chance to visit a number of establishments and I see a lot of really good safety precautions that continue to be utilized. And as a number of people in the community are urging us to reduce capacity in restaurants, I tell them all the time that what I see out there is that restaurateurs and operators are very cognizant of public health and taking great measures to keep people safe. And that's why we continue to resist those requests to reduce capacity. We have no designs to do that, so please know that. We know, based on the information we see, that the surge that we're experiencing now in Southwest Indiana is coming from two main sources, and that is long-term care facilities and social gatherings. So we know while there may be one-off cases here and there in businesses, that's not where the surge is coming from, and we're cognizant of that. And please know that we are in contact with the health department and the hospitals literally on a daily basis to have all kinds of input from them. So again, just a moment to thank you for the great work you're doing to stay open and to keep your patrons and employees safe. Tara?
Thank you, Mayor. And I've got my dinner reservations made for the weekend, so I hope everyone else does too. The guy that's got the most current information for us is Chris Borowicki, and I know you're on the call here, Chris, somewhere. Would you take a few minutes and share the latest and greatest from the health department, because you're our #1 guide into our practices?
Tara, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I was on there. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm on my phone, so I don't really know who's all out there, but thank you, Mr. Mayor, for those good words there too, prudence there. As far as with the health department, I mean, we're continuing with the executive order that we have laid out from our governor, and then also just what we have here locally, just trying to make sure, I mean, it's a broken record, but it's something that we continue to say. I know people are tired of hearing it, but face coverings are required, social distancing 6 feet, continue to sanitize, screen your employees, for symptoms, and then continue to do those things, and then help the customer too. I know executive orders asking, that you have the signage up for the face coverings, even for the customers. We've heard, many cases that, and again, not sugarcoating it, but hearing that other facilities are having troubles with that because customers are being abusive, to the workers and all. So, the signage and things, try to do that, try to engage it the best you can, as positive you can, offer curbside service if need be, if they don't want to wear a mask, and just be as polite as you can with them as you do. We understand it is a hardship on you guys. but we thank you for what you're doing in that respect. And then even with the whole process that we have, where we're getting a lot of calls where maybe someone has tested positive or they're a close contact, they're asking a lot of questions about that from our nurses, and then it seems like it filters a lot to our environmental division here. So just to clarify, you know, if anybody is tested positive, obviously they have to be excluded. They need to be out, and that would be for a 10-day period with symptoms that are improving. And then if they are identified as a close contact, they have to be out for 14 days. We've been hearing people say, oh, I'm a close contact, but I tested negative, so I can come back to work. All that means is that they tested negative maybe on day 2 or 3, but we know between day 2 and 14, you could still become positive. So if you're a close contact, then you'll have to isolate for that full 14 days and be symptom-free before you can come back. So just trying to help clarify with that, and I hope that does help. Other thing is, I know I've, just to update everybody, did get a call or some emails from Excise. They've been going out in the community, doing their inspections as they normally would. And it's not just Vanderburgh County, it's throughout the state. And what they're doing is then they're notifying local health departments if they find violations. If individuals, workers, restaurant workers, or in bars and taverns, if they're not wearing a face covering, employees, then they're reporting that to our local health departments. And then the local health department then in turn will respond, do the education as we always do, Tara, always continue to do that. And again, we got pretty good compliance, at least during the daytime. We feel more so than the nighttime, but I know it gets harder at times there with larger gatherings. So we're trying to limit that. But then Excise will send that information. We'll send out then a cease and desist order to say, it was reported, you know, that you're not wearing your face coverings. We do all the education, and then we'll come back out, make sure that they're in compliance. If they're not in compliance, we can issue a citation. It wouldn't just be right off the bat thing. It's a process of education, notifying, and then rechecking to ensure that they are in compliance, and so they can do that. So getting pretty good compliance with that. And again, it is a big partnership. And I think, Tara, you know, the way I look at it, it's a marathon race that we're in. It's not a sprint by any means. I don't know what mile marker we are, you know, after these number of months, but I do know it's about vigilance, that we'll have to keep our guard up, continue to do the things we know that we can do, and proven that we wear our face coverings, we social distance, sanitize, and continue to screen our employees. So, you know, and just know that if anybody has questions about those things or anything else, we're there to support. So use that as an introduction, I guess.
Well, thank you, Chris. And we'll be sure to update and have this information available to remind. And I do want to say that I've gotten to the health department far better in these past months than I ever did. And we are all blessed in this county to have your partnership and your thoughtful thinking on this, because it's, you know, we're learning as we go. But we do appreciate not only the update, but we appreciate all you're doing for the county and the region. I know Christine Pryor is available. Christine is with the city of Evansville, and she's on touch of most of the loans and grants that are out there. I wanted Christine to just take a second if there's any updates on what's out there in financial resources, because I am guessing there's still plenty of demand. Christine? Christine? Anyone heard from Christine? I can't see her.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, great. I'm on the phone too, so I can't see who's all out there, but I'm happy to speak to everybody about the loan funds that the city does have. We have 3 different types of loans: a community revitalization loan fund, an economic development administration revolving loan fund, and a CARES revolving loan fund. Now, right now, all of these loans, we are able to make loans at 0% interest due to COVID. So we really are encouraging people to take a look at these, access to capital right now with the 0% to help you get up and running after COVID. We're there for you. But even if it's not directly related to COVID, we do have funds available, and those terms are very flexible as far as interest rates and payback. So really take a look at the possibility if you need some working capital to get you through this time, or if you are a restaurant needing to maybe increase your outdoor seating and you need to buy some tables and chairs and awnings or heaters for the outside, that might be an opportunity to use one of these funds. Or if you need to switch from China to disposable, and we know how expensive that can be. So look at it as if you need some extra money during this time. These revolving loan funds are a way for you to use those funds. We do ask that anybody who is applying to these funds speak with the Indiana Small Business Development Center there with the chamber, because they will be able then to help you complete the application and also help you to look at your business to see if there are some other changes that you might need to make in order to survive and thrive through COVID. So if you are interested in a revolving loan fund through the city, we do ask that you start with the Indiana Small Business Development Center, and you can give Karina a call at 812-425-7232. And I know Tara knows that number well, so she can always help you as well. But we are here to help in any way that we can, and we have those funds available, and we do encourage our restaurants to think about using those funds.
Thank you so much. It's been a wealth, I'm going to say a deluge of opportunities coming to you to consider these different programs. And I know it may seem a little chaotic because most of you that are on this call are in the city of Evansville. If you're not in the city of Evansville, there's another set of funds. So the most important thing Christine said is call the SBDC. Their numbers are on our website. We'll get you to them directly because they can help you to slice and dice some of these things that you may not want to spend your own time sorting through. And that's my subtle segue to ask Doug Claiborne, who is with the Small Business Development Center and one of our rock star counselors. He's agreed to take just a moment on kind of an update on the federal with the many programs that you may already be using. So Doug, sir, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Chair. If Christine is still on the line, Christine, you still there? Are you not muted?
I am still here.
Okay, it might help because I get confused sometimes with we've got so many different loan funds through so many different sources that if you could just briefly, for those 3 loans that you mentioned, say the qualifiers, mainly geographic, I think, but maybe otherwise for each of those loans, so that people that are listening or watching understand whether they can apply for a particular loan or not.
Well, right now, all of our loans are good throughout the city of Evansville. I know at one point in time, we were kind of directing them to certain targeted areas, including the Promise Zone, the Jacobsville area, and Haney's Corner. But right now, regardless of where you're located within the city of Evansville, you are eligible to apply for our revolving loan funds.
Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that because that is a recent change. So outside of those, as Tara kind of alluded to, those funds that are available through the city, there are obviously conventional bank loans that we work with clients for. And also within the state of Indiana, there are from time to time different opportunities. And right now, the most advantageous for businesses is it's called the Restart Grant through the state of Indiana. And you can access information and an application for that loan. I wish I had the link that I could put up on the screen, but I can tell you what it is, and you can also call our office and we'll give it to you. But it's basically backontrack.in.gov. You go to that site and you will see a listing of basically eligibility requirements, which I can give you here. Businesses must be registered to operate in the state of Indiana, must have had less than 50 employees as of 12/31 of last year. Businesses must have had less than $5 million in revenue last year, and they must have been a profitable business. That's a critical qualifier. They must demonstrate a monthly revenue loss. And here's what's changed recently. It was stated when it originally was rolled out to be at least 40%. Now they've dropped that to a 30% loss of revenue compared to pre-COVID months, average months for last year. So that's an important thing, because some people that applied initially when it was rolled out in August were told they didn't qualify. So now it's possible that they could qualify because of that lowered average revenue loss amount. So they must be in good standing with the Indiana Department of Revenue, which means basically that you have to have your taxes up to date, paid. So that's the main ones. And I think that aside from that, there was an original dollar amount limitation, and they've upped that dollar amount availability too. So that's really important, I think, to know. And what qualifies for that grant money is basically a reimbursement of expenses that you may have incurred to get your establishment in line with safety precautions. And those are obviously rent, mortgage payments, and your utilities payments, which includes natural gas, electricity, garbage, internet, phone bills, mobile phone bills, lease payments, real or personal property. And here's the one that's probably the bigger expense item for most places: safety investments, which primarily is PPE, protective equipment like masks and gloves and sanitary or sanitizing solution. But it also covers infrastructure, as I understand it, to the extent that it is for safety reasons, such as plexiglass dividers between tables or booths that are put in place to keep people safe, that kind of expense. Now, having said that, this grant was extended to December 1st, which makes it almost impossible to run out there and incur these expenses and then turn around and turn in the receipts and get reimbursed for the grant, because it is an application process. You're not insured that you're going to get reimbursed. It would work better if you have already incurred those expenses and are looking to get reimbursed. Those are probably going to be more realistic, but other expenses, especially as we approach colder winter months, if you haven't already altered your establishment for outdoor dining, that's still a possibility you might want to look into. But having heaters in that space is almost mandatory, as we can see today. It's pretty cold. I don't know that I'd want to sit outside and eat even in the sunshine, but if you have heaters, that's a big plus. That might be an expense that you could incur now and still, depending on whether you can get the heaters you want and the number that you need, still get possibility through the Restart grant to get reimbursed. So that's, in a nutshell, one of the biggest opportunities that we have. But I want to remind people that the Small Business Development Center, located throughout the state, is a resource available at no cost. We have tools that we can provide for you at no cost. And three really critical areas that I think are important for everyone to remember when things are bad as they are now, trying to get going, and I know restaurant industry is a thin margin business anyway. Having lesser tables that you can fill and things that you can do to try and generate traffic has been reduced. But think about the three critical things that provide success is looking at your margins. You got to be profitable. That means you got to have probably a good up-to-date business plan, and we can help you with that. Always go back and look at your business plan at a point like this when things have changed and say, is it still valid? Do we need to do some tweaking? Always ensure a consistent guest experience. That's obviously important for everyone. And use this time to create loyalty. I know a lot of them have done that. I see a couple of clients' names on there that we've talked to that have either created drive-in windows or really utilize them to the max, carry out delivery even. So think about those things. And generally, if you need ideas or you want to sit down and talk about ideas, contact our office. If you need to put together financial projections, we've got templates that can help you do that. A lot of different tools and resources that we can do to help. So we're here and want to help businesses and appreciate all you do and hope people are still eating out.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you and all your colleagues, because you have been sustaining this region in many ways over these past many months, and we're going to keep leaning on you. So we appreciate that. I just sent a chat out saying, get your questions ready. But as Doug said, it would be really good if we had some current thinking on good ideas for how we do better as a restaurant and bar and retail establishment. And Josh Armstrong, who heads up the downtown Evansville EID, that's I'll let him explain. It's an economic improvement district. But long story short, he's been good enough to share some, put together some content for us that I think will really kickstart our conversation. So Josh, thank you for really leaning into this town hall, and we'd love to turn the floor over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm Josh Armstrong. I'm president of the Downtown Evansville Economic Improvement District, and we serve specifically the property owners in the Central Business District, many of whom have ground floor restaurant tenants. So I interface with tenant businesses pretty frequently and a few owned businesses as well. Rachel's going to advance the slides for me, and I'm going to just present a bunch of information of kind of where the market is right now nationally with some pretty recent polling. And then we're going to, then I've got some slides on maybe some ideas that you haven't thought of. So go ahead, Rachel. First, Ipsos, a very respected public polling organization, released on October 2nd a specific set of data about how people are, consumers are responding to COVID in general. And you can see up there that still about 70% consider COVID personally a moderate or a high threat. About 40% of the American population has settled into new routines. So for those of us that are now picking up food to go more, that's a new routine. You can see on here in the next month, so this would have been in the month of October. This survey was done at the end of September. Consumers said these were the kinds of behaviors that they were going to engage in. There is a little more than a third feels that they would be safer if people were taking, if a vaccine was available. Consumers are shopping and have already begun holiday shopping. So for restaurants that are on here that are in shopping areas, keep that in mind that it will start early. It will also be at unusual times. People will avoid to be in a big box store during the sort of high times of traditional shopping season. And then this is something that I thought was kind of interesting. 58% of Americans that were surveyed here put the election as a threat to you and your family, the outcome, as first or second. 57 had COVID. There were other threats in there, including the economy in general, climate issues, natural disasters, et cetera. So there's a lot of unease amongst consumers of all types, and COVID's just one of those areas of unease. So little information on the survey at the bottom. Next slide, please. This is, I think you jumped ahead maybe two. I think there's one before here. There we go. 7 Rooms is a waitlist management organization that provides the sort of tools behind some of the online reservation systems. And they've kind of come up with 4 personas to talk about who's coming into restaurants right now. You'll see they think that roughly 25% of the dining population will be ordering takeout only for the remainder of the year. But there's some good news in here too. The safety consumer, what are they looking for? They want the physical barriers. They want hand sanitizers. A quarter wanting food covered when it's served to them. I thought that was kind of interesting. Only about 13% are looking for those really strong contactless experiences where there's really no interaction, but a lot of consumers are wanting some of those items available, whether that's contactless pay or a menu that's through a QR code. And then lastly, there's quite a few people that are called carefree guests. And these are people who are continuing to go out and eat, 15% of which would patronize a bar. So that tells me there's 85% of the population that is not too excited about going out drinking. Next slide, please. Restaurant Business Magazine, this is a few months old, but off-premise is still preferred. And a vast majority of Americans have used drive-through, takeout, or curbside in the last couple of months since March. Digital orders are slowing. I think some consumers are understanding that may not necessarily benefit the restaurant too greatly. Delivery split evenly between first and third party mechanisms. So if you haven't figured out how to do delivery on your own yet, it may be a tool for you. And these digital tools are definitely for the younger consumers. So if your restaurant is more attractive to an older consumer base, some of those digital tools may not be so important. What are your guests telling you? That's a question you need to ask and answer for yourself. How are your guests feeling comfortable? And what do they want from you? Next slide. So I have the next two slides are going to talk about some resources. Patio heaters. Commercial propane heaters, a great quote, as hard to find as toilet paper was in March and April. And there are people, I see restaurateurs buying Home Depot, Lowe's, big box type home heaters. I think you're going to be disappointed when those burn out relatively quickly. They're not designed to run for the hours and hours a day that are going to be needed. I was able to find online some electric and quartz type heaters that could be hardwired. Benefits, these are more expensive, but the benefits of these are you don't have to deal with propane tanks. And I think another benefit here is you may be able to use a 0% loan that Christine and Doug talked about to acquire these tools. There may be some heater rentals, commercial propane heater rentals available from TRU Event Rental, and they would be able to provide service. When these are running regularly, they're going to burn out thermocouples. They're going to need work. So next slide, please. Dining dividers. So we saw earlier about a third of the consumers want to see these. And these are available from Anchor Industries locally. So contact Anchor and they can help you understand what it is that you need. They'll send you a lookbook, an ordering guide, and then work with you to get those done. Next. Rolldown patio enclosures. So I think this is a Chris Borwicki question. At what point does enclosure equal indoors? I don't know if Chris is still on the phone and could help us understand that.
Yeah.
So these kind of roll down enclosures are going to provide some wind coverage. Chris, at what point would this sort of fall under indoor seating capacities, et cetera?
So if I understand, are you talking about having a tent and then have something rolled down? Is that what you're saying?
Or enclosing a patio with these roll down sides.
Okay. Well, I think they could do that, Josh. It would still meet the code. It's you're just having dining out there. It's not that you can't do any food prep out there, but for dining, yes, if to help protect against the elements, that would probably help, and that would not be a violation because you're just simply sitting there and eating. So yeah, that could work.
All right. Vessel Awning is a local awning manufacturing company that can make these for you. These are semi-permanent. They would stay rolled up during nicer weather. Come down. And for restaurants that don't have a vestibule entrance, and when you're in big cities, you see these used to just kind of keep the elements away from the front door, even pre-COVID. So this could create a more comfortable dining environment, regardless of, when we get to that point where COVID is not such an issue. Next slide, please. So the next are a few other resources or ideas that have that crossed my desk earlier this week from a firm called Bench. Bench does placemaking consultant work, and they've sort of developed a kind of a flip book of ideas for people that do the kind of work I do There were a few in there that would work for restaurants. The first here you can see taking that uncovered sort of outdoor patio and trying to figure out ways to make it more of a winter season celebration, fire pit, decor, plants, etc., to create an experience. If we're going to deal with cold, let's make it sort of celebratory, is the idea behind the next couple of slides. So here's one idea for your patio. Next, please. This was an idea they had to create a bring your own blanket event. So Copenhagen is a city that has demonstrated outdoor dining with blankets year round as an attractive, consumer-friendly way. The restaurants do provide blankets. I don't think that's the line of work that any of our restaurants want to be in because of how do you sanitize them in between. But if you are asking your guests to bring their own lap blankets, etc., it could be fun and festive is the idea behind this event. Next, please. This is again about creating an event at your restaurant. This is a very common European thing, and these images are from Quebec, the most European of North American cities. How do you decorate the door in a way that creates an Instagram-worthy experience that drives people to your door? You could go on Pinterest and look at holiday or Christmas doors London, Christmas doors Paris, and you will find hundreds of examples of all kinds of businesses that actively decorate their front door in a way that consumers find attractive. They're taking pictures in front of these, posting it on Instagram. Another good source for that is Instagram. And you'll see that, you know, these kinds of sort of lush, thought out experiences are important for consumers. Some of these don't look that crazy to execute. That coffee and fritter all winter on the left side, 2 cup-shaped planters, and some simple decor and a window that's written on. So some of these are you would be able to execute probably on your own. Some might require the work of a florist or a decorator. Some might be maybe working with someone you know in the nursery business. But creating a vignette that attracts people to your door is another idea that may assist your business. Go ahead, please. Here's some more sales ideas, you know, building sales. One that just crossed my desk right now is the idea of pop-up experiences related to the holidays. And it was a bar in St. Louis that while their bar can't be open for Christmas, or excuse me, for Halloween, they are doing cocktail kits with spooky cocktails, you know, just kind of thinking, what are these things that we can do that create a special environment for our guests? Improved service. I went out earlier this week and went into a restaurant, and really my experience picking up to go was not that great. And so I'm gonna think twice about that. But you know, if people are getting used to eating at home, and I talk to a lot of consumers that are used to eating at home, what are we doing to convert those people to eat in your restaurants, or to make it so special that they know they can't, you know, you can get food anywhere, but providing that special experience for your guests. Communicate with your guests, call your reservations the day after they've dined there, ask them how their experience was, interact extensively on social media, look for reviews, look for comments, DM those consumers that have made comments, collect business cards, use emails to create a short SurveyMonkey survey, put that SurveyMonkey survey link on your social media, ask people to tell you, you know, what it is that they want, share your popular recipes. You probably all have people working for you that are on TikTok. Do something creative that can get, well, who would have thought that a 40-year-old Fleetwood Mac album would be in the top 10 in sales, and cran raspberry would be the hottest drink in the United States, all because of a 30-second short TikTok video. So a lot of power in TikTok right now. Develop specials that people can't get elsewhere. For winter, I'd focus on comfort items like pot pies. New York Times had an article 2 weeks ago on hot toddies and some of the sort of outdoor dining bars that are doing well in New York City have a whole page of hot items to drink, whereas they maybe last year had one hot toddy at Christmas time only. So think about that. Curbside, delivery, take and bake entrees, catering. And by catering, that's kind of individually wrapped items. Also consider the offices that are still doing lunches. I would never put out a platter right now. Baked goods, here's some crazy questions. Think about it being open on Thanksgiving. Change your Christmas Eve hours. Can you be open on Christmas? Want to be open on New Year's Day? If you have real sales needs, you know, I don't think that you can just say, no, we've never done that. I would take a look at these. And I would also start planning now for Valentine's Day. You know, we don't know what the seating capacities will be then, but we do know that people will want to go out and celebrate. You know, so start planning for that. Think, you know, is there a local florist you can work with, a local jeweler or something to start doing something really unique. It's going to be here before you know it. So next, please. These are some ideas to protect your margins, as important as sales. Plan ahead for protein and price fluctuations. There are always produce price fluctuations in the winter. I don't think that's any surprise, but we're going to have some crazy things happen this winter with regards to poultry pricing because of Thanksgiving. So consumers are expected that everyone will eat turkey on Thanksgiving, but it may not be in the sizes that were previously done. There may be a glut of ground and cut up turkey products available in December and January from the larger turkeys being sort of shrank. So larger turkeys not being that in demand, as people won't have 40 people in their homes for dinner. They may only have 6. So stay in touch with your mainline supplier to understand where these price changes will be happening. They will know a couple of weeks in advance. That might give you time to come up with a recipe to use these things. Keep an eye on international news and national news for lockdowns in other regions. So we just saw France kind of go into lockdown, Germany partial, England is in a partial lockdown on hours and other things. These are going to impact the products that you're using, particularly if those lockdowns are coming from Central and South America and the American Southwest for produce. To-go packaging, how can you save money on that? Does everyone need utensils? I like it when someone asks me if I need utensils, things like that. But also, for me as a consumer, if I get something in a box that doesn't work well for it and it's horrible when I get it back to the office or home, you know, look at your to-go packaging closely, both for margins and as a sale driver. And then every line item, every day, labor costs, utilities, shop your insurance around, shop for lower credit card fees, deepen connections with your bank. Make sure your bank knows what your business plan is in case you're going to need to connect with your lender and see if there's some other resources that they may have. And then reach out to the ISBDC, Doug Claiborne and Karina Hampton, the team here that can help you guys with all that. Next. And that's it.
Well, that was a great tee up, Josh, and thank you so much for the bigger picture. I know so little about those things. I could not offer a single observation except to say that later on today, we're going to take the staff and carry out box lunches outside. So we're going to do our part to support the local economy. But we would love to hear from you. If you are running a restaurant, have an observation, have a question, unmute and speak up. And if you don't do that, I'll call on you. So who can share what's been going on with their business? Someone gets to be first. Kelly, I see your question from the health department. I don't know if Chris is still on the line or not, but if he's not, we'll get that sourced out.
No, I'm still here, Tara.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here.
Can you see the question is this: when you're assessing if a restaurant is compliant, and they're also in the catering business. Are you looking at their catering protocols too?
Yeah, I mean, our number one thing, I mean, we're still all about food safety, so we're still doing that. What's added is now the COVID requirements that are in place. So obviously face coverings. So we've been educating and saying, you know, all staff, just as executive order expresses, that all staff has to wear their face covering over their mouth and nose properly. So if we see that they're not, we're going to educate them. We're going to say, hey, you need to be making sure you're doing that the whole time you're in the operation. Obviously, if you're taking a break and you're seated and you're eating and drinking, you can't do it with your mask on. So you can sit down, do it at a designated place, put your mask back on, go wash your hands, and then go do whatever process you're doing. So if you're a caterer or any kind of food business, I mean, that's the requirement. And that's what we're educating on and making sure that they understand. But we'll get complaints, customers going in and say, oh my gosh, the face covering was not over their nose, or it was on their chin, or they weren't wearing one or walking around. Well, if we can go and we can verify that when we go and try to check on that complaint and see that that's not being done, yes, that's a violation. We'll educate. We'll send a cease and desist order letter just expressing that, saying this is what you need to do, stay in compliance, and then we'll come back and recheck it. So yeah, whatever, any kind of food business, that's the requirement. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Kelly, does that
Okay,
answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, sure.
And
Who
I think
else
if I
has a
could
question or
piggyback
a
real
concern? Sorry.
Oh, Tara, if I could piggyback on that, please. So again, we still see, you know, sometimes in the operation where the mask is coming down and then the employee is, you know, fiddling with it or trying to get it on. So it's really important to have a proper fitting mask so you don't have to handle it. Because if you think about it like anything else, if you touch it, you need to go wash your hands. So those are the things we're trying to help with and trying to make sure they're aware of. But I see that it's gotten better. It was bad, it got better, and it's holding pretty good right now for the most part. But thank you for that question. Yeah.
Sure. The floor is yours if you're in the business. All right, Rachel, I'm gonna let you start calling on people.
There was just one in the chat from Jessica. She said she's been checking on tent pricing.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm reading this question and it's about the big price of tents. And she's wondering about grant funding. Jessica, I'm guessing that's a question we can't answer online, but our partners at the SBDC will be happy to work with you on that. Unless anybody has specific experience they could share with Jessica.
Or Tara, if Christine's on, maybe she can answer that.
Christine, I think you're on by phone. So is 30 grand in the space of possibility for a revolving loan grant application? Okay, Jessica, I don't want to stall us out here. We'll try to help you find that out and sort that.
As far as I know, that's correct.
It should be okay. Yeah, I would think so.
Can I make a quick comment about tents?
Sure.
I have seen a few restaurants with large parking lots on the east side of Evansville install tents, and then no one dines in them because they're just put up a tent and there's nothing special about it. Again, I don't think the consumer is choosing to go into a restaurant or sit down at a restaurant to get what they could get to go. And that's kind of what that experience feels like. Mm-hmm. So a smaller tent with some landscaping put it in and around it, maybe hanging some lighting from it that make it feel special. That's going to drive consumer behavior. One of the hardest to get reservations in New York City this summer was a place in Brooklyn that was just a normal neighborhood restaurant that really created a unique experience in their patio space and kind of turned it into a vegetable garden and had people there. So thinking of what makes something special, that's what's going to drive the consumer. They'll pick up to go if they're hungry, but to eat in a restaurant, they need something special.
I'm thinking we should think of this as your favorite ski lodge. We all want to sit outside in our ski stuff. So let's just plan on doing it this year. Anybody on from the bar industry that could tell us how that's going?
I am.
Would you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. It's a struggle some days for sure, because not only am I a restaurant, but I'm also a live entertainment venue.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to plan has been a struggle this year because usually you're trying to create an experience that draws people in, but now we have to safely bring people in. And we don't want to throw some huge party that's going to pack out because that's not safe.
Right.
So, in planning in my future, usually I plan events and parties 6 months in advance. I don't know what's happening in 6 months.
Yeah.
So can I bring a 90s show in that's going to sell 300 tickets? No. We're at 100% capacity, but we're still at 6 foot distancing, mask required. And let's be honest, when you're dealing with drunk people, it's like 3-year-olds on Adderall. Don't do that. Put your mask on. Don't do that. Put your mask on. It's a constant. They're not listening. There comes a point when they relax and they feel like it's normal times, and it's not. So it's a constant battle. But for me, my thought constantly and my constant question from staff, are we going to get shut down again? I don't think at this point we will. I've been putting safety measures in. I don't stay late. We close at midnight. I've moved my show times to earlier times because at a certain point, it's just too hard to keep people distance. They get friendly when they drink more. We do everything we can. And my biggest fear is, how do I book going forward to make sure we don't draw too much? And, Josh was talking about Valentine's. I do a really unique Valentine's all-inclusive party, which is like a vaudeville show. I don't think I'm going to do it this year because of the spacing.
Yeah.
Because we can't put on an event like that because it costs so much behind the scenes to be able to do that, that we wouldn't be able to have enough seats to offset the cost. It would be a losing venture for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be creative and think out of the box, maybe some live streams or something that people could join.
That's a good idea.
Something.
Do you find that I'm worried about the local live music scene? That may surprise a lot of you on this call, but are our local musicians finding more opportunities to book a night with you because there's a better cost situation? Is that happening?
I have been bringing more in, doing more acoustic shows at dinner time. I did a lot on the patio this summer. Some of it went well, some of it did not. I've started booking bands, but I'm only doing that on one night a week. I've just had some bands cancel because of the COVID numbers in Indiana going up that were coming in from Nashville. They don't feel safe. They don't want to take it back. So those shows have canceled, which is understandable. And I do still have a lot of local musicians that are not coming out and playing because they don't feel safe.
Sure.
So, I mean, you can understand it. So it's jumping through hoops every day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more creative.
Well, I know that singing and all that is not a helpful part of the activities, but
well, it's kind
of
of
be sensitive to this. We want to do.
Absolutely. And what I do, I started doing my jazz again outside on the Sunday afternoons, which was going well.
Good.
Now we're moving inside.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will not come inside. So then I started thinking, well, we could put a tent off the front of the my front patio maybe, and do something small out there.
Leave the doors open.
Yeah.
The chickens can sit outside, yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, some of the musicians are not close. I'm keeping my tables distance from the stage because when they're singing, they project.
Right.
And that's flying. We don't know how far, So
well, you are on the front line of this business sector we're talking about. So we're really interested in how it's going and how we can help where there's something to explore.
Well, I work very hard with my artists too, to make sure they're comfortable. Tonight I'm capping at 125 because I have a show. I have reserved seating so I can keep people 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
Very limited tonight, which will barely cover my cost, but hopefully my staff makes some money and don't leave, because that's been an issue as well, because the volume isn't there. And when you're making $250 an hour and only make $30 in tips, it's a little hard to pay your bills.
Yeah.
But they're hanging in there. They are. And they're all looking for day jobs, something to offset it, because they don't want to leave what they do that they love, but they have to pay their bills. So that's a struggle and a worry every day.
Well, we appreciate all you're doing. It matters to the community.
We're doing the best we can.
Anyone else got insight or experience in that particular space? How about in the general dining area? Anything that's come up or is a good idea that is worth sharing with your colleagues on this call?
Tara, this is Randy Hobson. I really have more of a question for the folks on the call. Anybody have any general idea of cost of some of these tent options? And I guess the second part of that question, you know, somebody like Anchor, who is a very, very large manufacturer, has anybody approached them about doing something very aggressive to help restaurant owners either buy or lease or rent? I'll just kind of stop there, but just trying to get general cost ideas. I agree with Josh. The ambiance you can create is really important. And some of those drop down options that were shown were very good. So I'm just curious what people are experiencing that have at least priced this out or has actually implemented this. Thank you.
I will email to Rachel. I'll send it over to you to email out to the participants the Anchor Industry sort of flip book on some of this product. Anchor is directing their exterior products or outside products to TRU Event Rental, but they have a long-standing relationship within the community. So I believe all the inquiries are going there. But the roll downs, honestly, if it was me, I would be contacting probably Vessel, which is a local awning company. They would come measure and create something custom that would fit your space correctly. When I think about some of the spaces that don't have that have an overhang, you know, Pangea, Randy, would be a great way to have that, and would also honestly create not just more dining area, but improve the really cold experience of people waiting in line if you're able to stop some of that wind coming in, because I don't think you have a vestibule there. So it might have some other benefits from utility costs, guest comfort, staff, you know, your staff is up along that wall. The engineering of those is relatively simple. The engineering of tents is is much more complex than you would think. And tents also need to be installed in Vanderburgh County, I think in the whole state, by sort of certified installers. Because if we go back a couple of years, those folks that were killed at the State Fair in Indianapolis, the Department of Homeland Security, Indiana Department of Homeland Security, changed the standards on how tents have to be installed and secured. So tents might not be a project for the restaurateur themselves. I would probably reach out to TRU.
I will add that we work very closely with Anchor on lots of things. So we'll bang this around a little bit with their leadership. They're active in the Tri-State Manufacturing Alliance and other things, and see if there's a pilot project that might make some sense here that could help them to, you know, test some of their lines. And, you know, some kind of a rental or lease situation seems like it might have some merit. So we'll see if we can learn about that.
Hey, Tara, I'm not sure if everybody saw in the chat, but we'll certainly from the city side talk to the fire department and city attorney and see if there are any obstacles in the way. And if there are, we can try to, you know, remove those barriers and, you know, just like we did with the outdoor dining program, you know, figure out how tents figure into that situation. And like Tara said, you know, we're more than willing to go to some of these vendors and see if, you know, the local ones, we can create some sort of specific assistance program. The owners of Anchor are very good about that, and I think we can figure something out.
I think that's one of the great things we could try to accomplish, because we are in the most southern part of Indiana, so we might as well take advantage of our Riviera-like environment here. I got the mayor's attention. He's laughing at that. Well, in all seriousness, I want to take just a moment, because we're nearing our end time, to ask you, please, if you have A, a great idea, B, an acute frustration or problem, don't let it linger. We'd love to hear from you right away, and we'd love to share your expertise with others, because what is making our region work is having an active, restaurant and entertainment scene, and we're all desperately missing it. So we want to be more supportive of you in every way than we possibly ever have been. So I appreciate you being on the call. If you have more questions or whatever, shoot them to any of us that have been participants in the call. But certainly you can always get to me at the chamber, Steve Schaefer at the city, and our friends at the health department have been extraordinary through all of this. So Josh, thank you for your time. Chris and Christine and Doug, thank you for participating in the call. Mayor, thanks for continuing to advocate for keeping our community both safe and open. We appreciate it. And we'll hopefully have more of these conversations when we're talking about how the success curve is coming back in our direction. But thanks for being with us today. And I hope you have a great Halloween weekend and some things happen out there that are good for your businesses. Goodbye.